Let me tell you something. When we're dealing with a pandemic and your government doesn't ask you anything, I don't care whether it's been declared a pandemic or not. What that helps me to understand is this. My government is failing me. Now you need government. Ain't no do for self or ain't no rugged individualism that's going to help you with a pandemic. There's no class. You can go get a how to be a billionaire class all day long. They said one of the NBA players had the corona. So that doesn't, you interact. And that's why I am where I am in terms of my politics. I understand the importance of government. And government has to be big enough to be robust. It can't be small and drowned and a skeleton. It has to be muscular and big enough to do big things that I need done. And people are like, well, Yvette, why don't you go with Bernie? You say you like big government. Bernie wanted big government. I don't need big raceless government. I need government to do everything. I need government to understand race and what has been done to us and fix that and be big enough to step into action when the corona comes. I keep pronouncing it wrong. Corona, yeah, I got it right that time. But I need it to be big enough. That's the importance of government. See, all these people who are telling you don't need government don't have anything when the corona comes. They're not even going to buy you cold and flu medicine. And all this stuff half this stuff don't even sound right. And then you see Trump over here. The Trump administration is stalling an intel report that warns the U.S. isn't ready for a global pandemic. Well, no, Sherlock. Trump budget proposes cuts to global health amid 2 global health crises. See, part of what has happened is America, this whole small government, rugged individualism garbage. Part of what, and I'm not trying to, I'm nice. Listen, I'm nice to when black Republicans call in here. I'm nice. I'm not mean, because I think we have to act as a collective in our own interest. And I think that means not putting a stigma on people in a certain way. But I want all of you to understand that you can't act individually for yourselves because you work in money or you've made some money or you don't like the Democrats. Me either. The only reason I'm here is because majority of ADOS vote in this space. I know we need government. The majority, you might not, but I know the majority of us need it, and we're already here. So that's why, for me, transforming something that we already are the base of is better than trying to reinvent the wheel, and a wheel that doesn't give us enough money. It's all about the monies. We have this mindset. The America that we live in is not good for emergencies. You cutting all this stuff. Trump budget proposes cuts to global health. You cutting all this stuff that we need, but we need global health. You cutting, you can't pay reparations. You can't protect us. And then we have a situation now where if you go to the hospital, Trump said during this, how many of y'all watched his thingamajig, his thing in the Oval Office where he sounded like he got the corona with all this stuff in his. How many of y'all watched that? Well, we're going to waive copay. No, but do I get to get off work? Our people can't. Listen, understand where our people work. We work a lot in fast food. We work a lot in service industry. We got a lot of black women who are nurses, who are traveling nurses. Nurse to nurse. You got to understand the exposure of the group. I don't see I just don't see how a government that's not robust, like honestly, there are countries right now, we're going to get into this, that are sending out cash payments to citizens to make sure that they can stock up on food and stuff and just be in the house. That's what we need. But see, Trump is just the Republican Party on steroids and a little off. We have a problem before he got here, though. And don't let anybody tell you that problem is solved after he leaves. No, he's just the worst kind of aberration. The worst kind of like manifestation of this I'm a rich white man, small government stuff. Hell, Joe Biden is a problem too, just not on that level. Joe Biden walks around, I'm gonna cut everything. I'm on the phone. No, I don't need that. What y'all on? What kind of drug is this? So did Trump try to cut the CDC's budget as Democrats claim? Analysis. So let's read a little bit about this before we get to the corona. The president introduced his fiscal year 2021 budget proposal on February the 10th, just 11 days after the World Health Organization declared the coronavirus outbreak a public health emergency of international concerns. The spending plan included a 16% reduction in CDC funding from the 2020 spending levels. Understand how big 16% is. In fact, all of Trump's proposals have called for cuts to the CDC funding, but Congress has intervened each time by passing spending bills with year-over increases for the CDC that Trump then signed into law. Come on, this is not just negotiating. This is stupid and this is dangerous. But it's not just the president's budget proposals that are under the microscope as fears of a new coronavirus outbreak mount. This was a few days ago. Bloomberg also took this before Bloomberg dropped out. Bloomberg also took aim at Trump for eliminating the position from the National Security Council responsible for coordinating administration efforts to combat infectious disease. And he did that. And here's a quick tweet. Let me just show this really quickly. Trump says the coronavirus came out of nowhere, but last year the DNI warned that we were vulnerable to a pandemic that could lead to massive rates of death and disability, severely affect the world economy, strain international resources, so on and so on. And here's the actual quote. Yeah, and now here we are. You have to understand that. You have to understand it. And I don't know. I'm trying to understand. But I don't know as you look over that. You know, we should be so mad. We should be so angry at people who have talked us into like not dealing with government for the sake of well, that you don't want a handout. We should be so angry at that. Because that's what's about to happen. They're going to bail out these people. The question is, are we going to get bailed out? That's the big question. And I don't know how we answer that question. I don't know, because we have been put into the positions of being Uber drivers and all kinds of stuff. So think about it. I want you to just think about it for a second. If you're an Uber driver, you not only Antonio tweeted this earlier, but that's why we shouldn't complain about welfare. I had to pull that up. You not only have to deal with the people getting in your car who might have the virus, and you're exposing yourself to that, and you expose them because you got to eat. You're not doing nothing wrong. Please don't think I'm holding the Uber drivers accountable for anything. You're doing what you have to do because Obama allowed Uber to make you subcontractors with a 1099 as opposed to actual employees with benefits. Your first black president did that. This gig economy is Obama's economy. He should own it. Hang that albatross around that Negro's neck. Own that. Because you can't even go and say, you know what, and Uber gave people, what did he give them, like 2 weeks or something? That ain't it. You're risking your life now, and you don't have a choice. And Obama did that too to mask the unemployment rate, so he could make it look like people were really having jobs when they really weren't having jobs. You think you slick, but I was onto that all along. So now you get a 1099. A 1099 means you don't have benefits with the company. You don't have health care. You don't have none of that. I don't know a lot of black people with health care because it's so expensive. Everybody talks about Obamacare. And I've said this before. I pay $500 a month for a little raggedy plan that half the little clinics don't even take. How do you run around proud of that? Well, the people who have money, they get their pre-existing illnesses covered. Oh, you trash ex-president. And I don't even call people that, but I'm so pissed off because you look at like this, a pandemic is sweeping, and you look at everything that's done wrong, and you understand. So forgive my anger. I don't like to use that word. I don't like to call nobody because we know a little rapper who called us trash and demeaned us and did all this stuff. But I'm talking about a policy, not a person. All of these policies were awful under Obama. There were no protections. So now we're just here. So what do? If you work in one of these places, you're a traveling nurse, you Uber, fast food, whatever, service industry, you just a waitress or whatever, what do? How many people in the chat work in places where they come in contact with people on a daily basis? What do you do if you live paycheck to paycheck? What do you do if you cough? So let's talk about that just a little bit. Just so we know. We have to know these things. This is from the Atlantic. This coronavirus is unknown to our species. Once it breaks into one of our cells, the extent of its spread through the body seems to vary significantly. That means it's a shifty little virus. The experience can slowly progress from the familiar cough, congestion, fever to a life-threatening inflammatory response as the virus spreads down into the lungs, filling the airways with fluid. Survivors have can have permanent scarring in the lungs. The virus can also spread into the organs, causing liver damage, gastrointestinal disease. These effects can play over longer periods than the flu, sometimes waxing and waning. Some patients have begun to feel better than falling critically ill. The disease can be fatal despite receiving optimal medical care. That medical care part isn't there, but yeah. So let me tell you the importance of how sneaky this disease is. All right. So let's say you have all the cough, you had a congestion, you had a fever. But this little sneaky virus makes you feel better sometimes. So you have all that and you say, oh, must not have been nothing. I feel better. I'm going to go back out and be in the world again. You feel better, but you ain't better. The virus is sneaky. It's almost like it's making you feel better, so you go out and spread stuff. Feel better. Go walk in the world and be around people again. And so you're spreading it without even knowing that you're spreading it. You are delivering disease without knowing that you're delivering disease. Let's go to the next part. Oh, this is the same one. Hold on. Let's go to the next one. The best possible monitoring and communication will nonetheless prove vital to determining who needs hospital beds in the midst of a rapidly spreading temperamental disease. I don't want no temperamental disease. I don't want no disease, but I want you to be temperamental. Without it, to simply tell people to stay home if you're sick will be inadequate. Most cases of COVID-19 are reportedly mild, but the term can be misleading. As the World Health Organization advisor Bruce Allen clarified last week, mild case of COVID-19 is not equivalent to a mild cold. Expected to be much worse, fever and coughing, sometimes pneumonia, anything short of requiring oxygen. Anything short of requiring oxygen. Severe cases require supplemental oxygen, sometimes via a breathing tube and a ventilator. Critical cases involve respiratory failure or multi-organ failure. Let me ask you this. Those of you who have older people, the fatality rate amongst older people is 15%. And when I say older, I mean 80 or above, I think they said it is. And in Italy, they're not even trying to save you if you're above 60. They're saying they don't have enough ventilators. If you're above 60, you kind of on your own. They make a choice to, and 60 is young for now because you still got a lot of good years ahead of you. No. They've made a choice because they don't have enough ventilators. Because they didn't have surge either. And we don't have surge over here. 1 million hospital beds. Have you had a conversation with the old people in your life how they can't go nowhere? You can't go nowhere. No, don't be like, why? It ain't that bad. I think I can still make bingo. If you don't sit your butt down in your house, have you had a conversation with these people in your life about like getting, hey, listen, depending on how much you have, don't do nothing else but buy stuff you need in your house. So that you have food and water. And you don't need to go outside. Because these old people, you're on Social Security anyway. You just sit down somewhere. Well, I think you just exaggerating. You just always been silly. Things have to happen. They say you can't even quarantine with other people in the house. So they tell you to stay home, but they don't tell you what stay home looks like. I read that you can't even use the same bathroom with somebody who's sick. You basically gotta lock them in the basement. Don't come up, we'll throw the soup down. So let me go to the next thing. The disease can sometimes escalate unexpectedly, even in young and healthy patients. Even healthy young patients, will need people checking in on them. They may be fine home initially, but would need to know precisely what to watch out for and when to seek care. People who do require medical supervision but not hospital care need a place to go and stay. This could include listen to this. This could include people with escalating symptoms or underlying risk factors. Even patients with a mild case will need to self-isolate if they live with others who have not yet been infected, especially if those people are older and immunocompromised. And come on, ADOS. I put a whole article up about how ADOS, we live together now because America doesn't give us nothing to be whole citizens. So you living with mama or grandmama or whatever. Okay, you got to be here. You can't do that because their immune system can't take it. Have we had these conversations? And let me just say one other thing before we get to that. One thing I need from black people, honestly, because I saw a lot of videos of black people just saying stuff. We gotta, it don't affect us and it's this and that. We don't know enough yet. Maybe this stuff gets contained and it don't be nothing. But you always gotta kind of hope for the best, plan for the worst. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. That's what you do. If you plan for the worst and the worst don't happen, you just have a set of experiences and planning for the worst. That's good to have in this world. You gotta have that. It's not a waste if you go and buy a bunch of food. If you buy some food that's not perishable, and you keep it. It doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make you a prepper. It doesn't make you, and there's nothing wrong with that either. So you have to get used to, hey, be optimistic. Expect it, hope for the best. Everybody hopes that this is just like SARS or whatever, and it might be. None of us are scientists here. But you got to plan for the worst. And that means having some food in your house. But what the government hasn't allowed us to do is be in a position. They haven't sent out cash payments to anybody. I remember when Bush did them tax cuts, I got a check in the mail. How come y'all can't give us a check in the mail to go and buy food? How come y'all can't tell employers that if somebody is sick, they got to stay home? And how come y'all can't tell, as a government, say, listen, if you get the chrono, we're gonna pass a special package of spending that if you get the chrono, because if it's a small company or even a big company, they might not be able to pay. The government's gonna foot the bill for a salary for you, right? To pay for you while you're at home sick off the chrono, and you're gonna have coverage, good coverage, if you come down when you don't got no insurance, because we as the United States government, we're awful. And so what we haven't done for you is make health care available to you at a very low cost. We haven't done that for you. So we know we messed up. So we're going to cover this for you. Otherwise, you just got sick people going to work and you got sick people spreading it. That's a problem. But let's look at how other countries have kind of handled it. China addressed this by mandating that sick people in Wuhan go into quarantine for 2 weeks at one of dozens of hastily adapted or constructed emergency facilities that look almost like military field hospitals. We ain't constructed. Do we have a plan to construct some little things like that? I know that the governor of Georgia gonna put us in a park, he say, something like that. Anyway, people are given food, beds, and medical monitoring. They can socialize with other sick people, and they can be transferred to a hospital if that becomes necessary. So they quarantine away from the general public. They don't go back home to their family. The U.S. and most other countries, in the U.S. and in most other countries, the process of removing oneself from society for 2 weeks is not so straightforward or even possible for many people. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has ordered some mandatory 2-week quarantines, But for only a few hundred travelers, that's nothing. The contained have passed their days at military bases, of which the country has 15 with designated space for quarantines. The capacity of people is nowhere near what may be needed. The capacity for housing and feeding large numbers of people is nowhere near what may be needed. In February, the Pentagon ramped up the military base in preparation to quarantine 1,000 people. That's not ever going to be good enough. Though mandatory quarantining at large scales would be infeasible and legally treacherous, governments might at least offer facilities for people who have nowhere else to go when they get sick. To that end, Washington state public health officials have already procured an econo-lodge. Others could anticipate similar needs and secure local hotels or retrofit empty stadiums or dead malls, or even cruise ships at port. Ideally, the accommodations would be nicer than military bases and would not feel punitive, or else people will not use them. Given the expanding global pandemic, what is wrong with this thing? Given the expanding global recommendations to avoid large gatherings and limit travel, such arrangements might also keep the hospitality industry from collapsing. So it's a way to pay the hospitality industry, without having to actually, they're not going to be in business, but we can put you in business by, you got to take these sick people. If all of this were happening, the United States might be able to avoid the sort of widespread shutdowns of cities, businesses, and institutions that are playing out in Italy, China, and elsewhere. But it is not happening. People who are sick are told to go home. A shortage of tests means that many people are staying home who do not need to. Many others are going out because they can't afford to stay home and miss work. Many don't have health insurance or fear the cost of being hospitalized. There is a strong financial incentive to conceal symptoms, to try to keep working and caring for children, and by consequence spreading the virus. Let me say one other thing. Kids are carriers. Kids are carriers. Now, the funniest thing is, the kids aren't dying from the virus. Viruses tend to not have as bad an effect on kids like chickenpox. When you get older, it's really hard if you get it. But when you're a kid, not necessarily so bad. One of the things that's happening is that kids so they have the virus, but they're not getting sick. That's interesting in and of itself. But what happens is they become little death traps, right? Because they don't have the virus, so they're not sick, and they hug and kiss grandma and grandpa and make them sick, and it's a rap tap. So you can't, listen, y'all also can't do what I saw in that video. Did y'all see that Memphis video where they done wrapped the chat, where people was wrapping up in trash bags and stuff? That ain't it. But what you can do is try to figure out from your local officials, what is the response? If you got a kid, when are they closing these schools? And is there money being set aside? Ask your job, what do I do when my kid has to stay home? He's not big enough to just be at home by himself. So what happens now? You got to figure out what happens. You can't wait on stuff to happen, because by the time stuff starts falling apart, it's too late. And we don't know how quick this stuff's gonna pop. It could contain it. It ain't no big deal. Or you could see a couple million people sick or more, way more. We don't know. But knowledge is power. Find out. Does your kid have to do virtual school? And then how does that affect your job? So before we go to all the other stuff, though, let's just do some other stuff. I don't even know. I don't know what people is thinking, is doing. As of last week, at ProHealth clinics in central Connecticut, patients who arrive with fever and respiratory symptoms are instructed to wait in their car and call the clinic to announce their arrival. Then a doctor or nurse dons a full shield, mask, and gown, gloves, and comes to the parking lot. The patient is to roll down a window and be evaluated on the spot. If a flu test shows no sign of the flu, the patient is to wait in the car while the clinic contacts the state health department. This is some serious stuff, and we have no protocol for it. We just half-assing our way through this. Health officials are then faced with the challenge: what to do with this person sick and alone in their car and not allowed into their doctor's office. This is where this is where a test for coronavirus would be of use. Until this week, though, the state of Connecticut had received only one coronavirus testing kit from the CDC. We don't got the test. Testing capacity is increasing now in partnership with private labs, but as of Monday afternoon, an ongoing Atlantic investigation could only confirm 4,384 tests had been done. Now let me tell you something. Let me make sure you understand one thing. South Korea, we can only confirm 4,000. That's what they confirmed. South Korea is doing 10 to 15,000 a day. Don't tell me Trump make America great again and we've been great when you can't even match South Korea. Don't sit down and shut up. If we can't even match them, and then we try to do our own tests, and we don't even know who got corona because we ain't even doing the test. They doing 10 to 15,000 a day. We've only done, that said 4,000. I saw something today that said 10,000 we've done. We've done 10,000 the whole time. They're doing 10 to 15 a day. God, talk about American exceptionalism. Now look at this. The goal over the next week or two is to get to the point of having 1 million diagnostic tests ready for shipment. Okay. For now, at least, it seems minimizing damage will involve sweeping and imprecise action I never like the word imprecise. To shut down a city or a country is to gamble that incurring disastrous economic consequences in the short term will prevent even more disastrous consequences in the long term. In the nightmare scenario that everyone is trying to avoid, the disease spreads so quickly that a country's healthcare system is overwhelmed and people go untreated. Do you all know that we can't surge as a country? Like, we don't have a surge capacity. We don't. Slowing the disease requires asking people to isolate themselves and in most cases stop working. Most of the world cannot shelter in place for long without income. When people are asked to survive alone without the cultural, social, and financial inputs that typically keep us alive, new ways of attending to basic needs become immediately necessary. For people who can't afford off work, we absolutely need to come up with new out-of-the-box solutions right now. Yes, that's what I just said. Among them is the idea that everyone receive cash immediately. People need to feel able to skip work and still make rent and feed their family. They need cash without strings attached, and they need it now, not via a complex omnibus economic stimulus package next month. With each day that such bills are debated by skeptical senators, people will continue to go into their communities out of need to work, spreading the disease simply because they have no other choice. Planning for emergency cash transfers is underway at Hong Kong, where permanent residents are to receive the equivalent of $1,282 later this year in an effort to keep both the economy and people alive. In response to a month of nationwide school closures in Japan, the government is paying out $80 per worker per day to help cover childcare or the cost of staying home to the parent. Other government payments could be conditional on taking sick leave, a sort of emergency national sick leave policy whereby your employer might simply have to verify that you did indeed miss work for 2 weeks. Let me tell you something. Our country is doing none of this. America is doing none of this. Sometimes you need to be able to see when your country is failing. America is doing none of this. We better hope this thing don't come this way. We might not have an election. And look at this. Look at this. Look at how it's moving. I want you to see the first part. Hold on first. Here's the last 8 days of U.S. COVID-19 testing mapped to Italy's number starting in 222. The trend looks awfully similar. It does look similar. Somebody said America doesn't even want to give us any info. That's true. That's true. And by having people stay in their houses, they do something and in terms of flattening the curve. So you don't want to go all the way up to the top of the curve. Because what happens if you do that? What happens if you do that is that's when you overwhelm the medical facilities. You can't do anything with them. You have to bring this curve down. You have to flatten this curve. But what I'm seeing now is that America doesn't seem to me to be in a position. We wasted time, we wasted effort, and we didn't have, we got so caught up, America, not us, but in this idea of small government that, we're just now in a pickle. They didn't even want to tell old people not to fly. How I don't think we understand you don't get to do that. You don't get to say that. I don't even know what we're doing. It don't make no sense. We don't even have screeners at the airport? How? Not even somebody to check your temperature? They got little temperatures they think they put on your head now. You can do that internationally. It takes 2 seconds. Check him. I don't even know. I don't think we understand the kind of government we need. This is the last thing I'll do before we go. At Harvard Forum, 3 who know warn of most daunting virus in half a century. Just so we understand, because we got to understand knowledge is power. The use of knowledge is power, best said. You can know something and not do it and just fail. It's the most daunting virus that we've contended with in half a century or more. Michael Mina, an epidemiologist at Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health, said. Why is this virus different? The spread of the new coronavirus has been compared to influenza, which also causes a respiratory illness. But as the panelists pointed out, there are no drugs or vaccines yet for treating or preventing the virus, known as SARS-CoV-2, as there are for the flu. In addition, we are exposed to different flu strains throughout our lives, which help us build immunity. No one had immunity for this virus. As researchers race to study the virus, they are finding that it does not seem to be infecting a great number of children, or at least making them very sick. Said that earlier. But it is causing serious harm to older people and those with underlying diseases, etc., etc. And even if it doesn't damage you or hurt you really bad, from what I hear, the disease lasts a long time. So let's say, well, even if you say, well, it's like a bad flu. Nah, I saw a young guy who had it for 30 days. Nobody has 30 days off. See, as for how to judge whether the response is working, the bad thing has happened, is coming, is here. She said, we're in the response phase. Our measure of success is not contaminant anymore. Our measure of success now is, will fewer people die or get severely sick because of our efforts? Well, you're right about that. Here we go. I don't want to sound defeatist here, but the state of our healthcare system, the way we have prioritized everything about it for the most part, is going to seriously impact our ability, he said, adding that we have no ability to create out of the blue new hospital beds. We can't even test appropriately. So let me just say this. Part of what has happened is that we haven't prioritized health as a country. And it doesn't even matter. Like even if this coronavirus just makes a bunch of people sick, but doesn't kill a bunch of people, you're still looking at a disruption. Now, like I said, maybe you keep it contained. None of us have a crystal ball, but you're still looking at a mass disruption, right? So if you're looking at this kind of mass disruption, what's happened is, see, we need a society where everybody just like, it's okay to go to the doctor. So you need some kind of care system. Well, it's okay or affordable just to go to the doctor. It's okay to just take time off work. But we have empowered corporations to the detriment of the people who work for them. So America is not set up for a pandemic because it's not set up to take care of citizens. It's set up for citizens to take care of corporations. That's going to be a problem. You saw it even in I watched Trump's speech. You saw it even in there. He talks about the payroll and some people don't have to make tax payments. What kind of garbage is that? That's not enough. That doesn't stem a pandemic. You need people to be able to stay home without having to worry about losing their jobs. You need people to have enough money to stay home. What are you talking about, Trump? What's going on with you? It doesn't make sense. The only thing that made sense was like, banning some travel, but you didn't even include the UK, and it don't even make sense why you didn't. What kind of rationale are you using for this? A payroll tax cut and this other we gonna make it so you ain't got to pay your taxes back. That's not it. Sick people need to be able to go to the doctor and stay home and we need to have little quickly made up places for them to go because we don't have enough hospital beds so they can be quarantined, especially if they ain't got nobody at home. I mean, there's a lot that has to happen, and the one thing that I'm seeing is our country isn't set up for it. We're set up to take care of corporations the best way possible, and that's a problem. But the second thing I'm saying is this: I think we need to take the lesson out of this in terms of like why government is important. Don't tell me no more government is important. When it comes to like big stuff like this, that's what you need. Boyce Watkins can't do nothing for you. He can't protect himself from the corona. And it's the same way on the right wing, the white right. Rugged individualism. I carry a knife and a gun in my pocket. Well, you can't shoot a virus. Good luck on you. I think at some point we have to have an appreciation for government. Now, we can all talk about how to make government better and more efficient and more accountable. But we not only need a bigger government, in my estimation, we need a bigger government that deals with race. We need everything the government has on offer. And right now we see the consequence of not having it, not getting it, not receiving it. And this is not going to be the last thing. This is not going to be the last emergency. We have climate emergency. We saw Katrina. We having all kind of climate emergencies. There could be other viruses. So let's say we dodged the bullet with this one. Right? Let's say we dodge a bullet with this and we contain it. Something else is coming down the pike. And you know who gets the brunt of it? It's us. We don't need to be working or building. That's why I can't do no Trump stuff. I don't need small government. I need a reasonably large government to work on my behalf and the behalf of people in general, the behalf of Americans in general. But I need a government that works for me. If I'm working in the service industry, if I'm a server at Applebee's or whatever, I'm a daycare provider. How many black women are daycare providers? Get a license or whatever to do it in their home too and make the home into a cute little daycare stuff. I need the government to take care of me in that space. Okay, you don't want me to take care of the kids or whatever, or the kids get sick. What money am I going to have? I need a stimulus for me. I work at the Kroger or the Ralph's or whatever. I need something that protects me if I get sick and I don't want to come to work, because rent's going to be rent. You haven't put out forth any legislation. You can't evict people or you can't foreclose on people. So I'm going to have to go to work, right? You can't just tell me, well, stay home if you're sick. That's some white stuff to say to somebody. We ain't never been able to stay home if we're sick. Stop whitewashing our lives. We don't live white lives. We can't just stay home. Well, Chad, Rebecca, come on. I saved a bunch of, I'm going to have to use my sick days. They think I might have the corona. And I've gotten like 90 of them saved up, and well, and if they don't pay, it's fine. I'll just take them out the 401k. But I'm going to be at home if you need me. I don't feel bad, but they say I tested positive. Presumptive positive. That's not our life. So I think as I go to break, like the people who have sort of told us that we don't need government and that government doesn't blah, 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 and get off the white man's plantation, you're going to see a lot of small black businesses fail. I'm already seeing people not go to the food trucks, right? How many black people recently have started food trucks and stuff like that? You don't have the capital to kind of wade through what we're doing. You don't have the capital, and you don't have enough people where you can just lay a bunch of people off and just say, phew, I laid a bunch of people off and that's it. Because we're already seeing layoffs. Let me see if I can find it. We're already seeing that too. People are already getting laid off. Let me bring that up really a little bit bigger for you. Port drivers in LA, hotel workers in Seattle, travel agents in Atlanta, stage hands in Las Vegas, festival workers in Texas. The first U.S. layoffs from the coronavirus. This is going to be a global recession regardless. And nobody's dealing with it. Not in any kind of effective way. So, give me a minute. I want to hear what y'all have to say, fam. Somebody said cruise ships are disgusting. Yeah, stay away from a cruise. Please don't do that. Like, I understand you're going to lose money, but whatever. But don't do that. Please don't do that. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back, listen to what you all have to say. I want to hear what y'all have to say about it. And maybe what are you taking efforts in your own home, your own life? And where do you work? Do you feel like you are vulnerable in this space and what's happening right now? So give me a few minutes and I'll be back.